Well, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. This is John Carroll, and welcome to a video as a part of the Family Office Project series. And it's my pleasure today to welcome Fred Gluckman to the video cast. A few words of introduction of Fred. He and I have known one another for a number of years, worked together at EY, where he's worked on sort of both sides of the aisle, or on the sell side and the buy side. He's been a family office executive, a single family office executive for a long time. He's been, as I mentioned, a consultant working at EY, working with family offices as a part of the Family Office Advisory Project. He's had his own consultancy working with families and is preparing to take a role with a new family office startup. Fred, welcome to the Family Office Project videocast.
It's great to see you, John, and thanks for inviting me for this conversation. I'm looking forward to it.
Absolutely. One of the topics that really rose to the top of the list for us as we were talking about what we might talk about was the issue or the topic around advisor alignment. Mm-hmm. And what do we mean by that? I think what we mean by that, generally speaking, is advisors having a complete and full understanding of families and family offices' needs, requirements, objectives, goals, and not just in the near term, not just in transactional, but also in the longer term, medium and longer term, so that next gens are considered, portfolio reallocations are considered, and the like. So, Fred, let me start by just asking you to give us your sense of the importance to a family long-term of having a really successful advisor alignment.
I think it's actually quite critical. So thank you, first of all, for the introduction. As I said, thank you for including me here. I gave you the very short answer, which is I think it's critical. It's having folks that you can bat ideas around with, and importantly, having folks with whom you can break the echo chamber that you often create by having an inner circle is quite important if you really have an intention of building a family enterprise, family legacy over the very long haul. You shared over and over again with me over our journey together the importance of thinking 100 years out. And to be able to do that, to me, means having advisors who have a similar long term and aren't just seeking to please you, but also seeking to support you. And that means breaking that echo chamber.
Yeah, and that's especially difficult for the family. Mm-hmm. When the relationships with the advisors has been long-lived.
Yes. Yeah.
So patriarch, matriarch established relationships, and those relationships with the external advisors are even within the family office. Mm-hmm. The executives within the family office are long-term in nature. Mm-hmm. And so, Fred, when we get to that place, and let's kick it around a little bit. What are some of the signs of misalignment with with your advisors? What should the family be on the lookout for that could offer them some indication that maybe there is a misalignment there?
Other than everybody sitting in the table and saying, yes, you're right, and you're always right, which is a really bad indicator. So biggest red light of all is when you sit at a decision table and nobody issues any opinion or challenges you. You and I spoke yesterday, and it's something that I've worked with families on quite often, is looking at that advisor connection and whether or not it's stale and whether or not it's outdated and whether or not it itself is its own just nodding head all the time. There are a couple of things that I think about, and we'll use an accounting firm as an example just because that's a recent project that I worked on. Patriarch created a dynamic, huge, large family enterprise for a successful, what he created is a successful family. He started ground up. I had a business partner with whom he was a co-investor originally. Business partner's family has done phenomenally well financially and also from a connectivity point of view within his own family. And their third business partner was actually their accountant. And this is decades ago when that happened. Second generation's taken over the family business now, and the third generation is coming on board. And the success of this family has been their ability to pivot with markets, with local market opportunities, et cetera. They happen to be in real estate. And what they found was that the accountant wasn't bringing them any fresh ideas. The accountant wasn't saying, oh, I'm working with 4 or 5 other families who are also going through this. This is what they've learned already so that you can continue to pivot efficiently and effectively. And what they found was they were actually being slowed down by their accountant, not being supported or accelerated, and certainly not getting new ideas. So I was brought into the conversation and I went to the accountant. I said, how many other clients do you have that are this complicated? Oh, this is our biggest client. And for how long have they been your biggest client? Oh, easily 20 years. My predecessor, for them, they were the biggest client, and they brought me on because I was the one who could handle the biggest client. So hallmark number 1, families' business dynamics are slowing down in terms of their pivot, their growth. Hallmark number 2 is the accountant. They have nobody with whom and against whom they can compare their experiences. There's no new brainstorming happening. And hallmark number 3 was this, and that is, as G2 comes on board and G3 comes on board, they complain to G2 leadership, the accountant's never returning my phone call. I can't get their attention. I'm getting everything at the last minute. So what was I looking for? I was looking for, can the accountant support their pace? What I found was that not only could the accountants not support their pace, they were actually starting to slow them down because no calls were being returned or what have you. So that whole dynamic was a break. And now, so those are the hallmarks. What does that look like when you look across the industry and beyond accountancy and when you look at multi-generational families? Entrepreneurs amass success from 0 to billions by being able to spot trends, move fast, break convention, and the pace at which they do that is faster than everybody else. If you're moving faster than your accountant or your advisor for an extended period of time, and your advisor isn't trying to and isn't going out and investing in other ways of bringing more wisdom to you, then you've got a problem. And because you've just moved faster than they can. So so I'll pause there because, John, that was your question. What am I looking for? I'm looking for the possibility that the advisor isn't keeping pace. I'm looking for the possibility that the advisor isn't investing in bringing new knowledge, i.e. aligning on the pace. Mm-hmm. I'm looking for the possibility in the worst case scenario that they are actually slowing you down.
Right. 3 great indicators I think any family can watch out for as indicators of maybe a tired relationship or an unproductive relationship or less productive maybe than it could be. And so when that happens, oftentimes because of the length of the relationship with the law firm, let's say, or with the accounting firm, or with the investment advisory team, or with the fiduciaries at the bank, or whatever, it's difficult for next gens to raise their hand and say, I'm not getting what I need out of this. And sometimes it's even difficult for the principals to really know how to express their concern for the relationship. And it calls into question the need for an external third party to support this process of, number one, sort of being self-aware of something is happening here that we need to consider and potentially change. And I think, Fred, you emphasized growth as sort of an underlying theme in all of your 3 points. That growth and the focus on the future, especially the long-term future, is key to success. And that goes back to thinking long-term about the family office strategy. And, we hear a lot about shirt sleeves to shirt sleeves in 3 generations, right? That's a very common phrase. I think every culture has some version of it. It's not unique to the Anglo-Saxons for sure. But we don't need to fall victim to shirt sleeves to shirt sleeves. We can overcome that, and we can overcome it. And now I'm going to pull out of my head a West Coast term. Since you're on the West Coast, Fred, and I mean the West Coast of the U.S., disruption. We can disrupt the family's understanding of their relationships, not only with their internal team but also with their external advisors, to make sure that it's, for this family, it's not shirt sleeves to shirt sleeves. So a couple of things that I've seen families do to break that cycle is, as you've said and pointed out, bringing in an external advisor to provide a different set of eyes, right? A different lens or different lenses to look through to make sure that we're getting more than we know, right? When you're sitting around the table with the family, and also to create a safe space where family can speak, because it's difficult to challenge the professionals in the room, right? When they're in the room with you and other members of the family. So those two efforts right there can make a huge difference for a family that wants to grow and feels stifled. Can you, from your experience, maybe give us an example of a situation where the family was stuck and you were able to provide, or or you witnessed someone provide the sort of advice and counsel to break free of the constraint and to avoid falling into the trap of shirt sleeves to shirt sleeves in 3 generations?
Yeah, 100% agree with everything that you said about this being a global phenomenon from multiple cultural perspectives. And what I say about that is it's, again, we're coming back to the builder mentality and the growth mentality. If the family wealth creator can infuse that ambition into the next generation, who can then infuse that ambition into the next generation, then you've really got the ability to disrupt that 3 generation risk. I call it a risk. It's not a shackle, but it's certainly a risk. I like to think about both values and valuables. We spend a lot of time as advisors and as our own. I think, John, you and I share an ambition for our own families, albeit modest compared to the families that you and I support and engage with on a regular basis, but we share that ambition. And so the valuables get planned for a lot. You've got a tremendous amount of professional infrastructure that is sitting there ready to go to do estate planning, to do long-term investment planning, to do endowment style investment planning, to insulate the assets from a legal protection perspective. There's a tremendous industry, not cottage, huge, focused on the valuables. But it's the values that actually will get you there over the long term. And again, I think this is a multicultural perspective, that if you have a reason to build the wealth and you have a focus and a value set, then the wealth will come and grow. If all you're focused on in the wealth is more often than not, it's just going to disappear over time and certainly across the generations. So why do I give that preface? What I've seen as critical is a listening to the next generation of what they're hearing and what they're concerned about and where they want to go, and a listening to the sponsoring generation about what they want that second generation, that third generation to hear. And then looking for the gaps between what people are saying and what they are doing. And it's, again, I'll come back to the very first example I gave you. If everybody who's sitting around the table with that matriarch, that patriarch, that wealth creator is just going like this, then nothing. So you've got to get in there and make sure that the conversations come to a center point and an agreement point. And we say these are our values, and we are now going to act along those values. So some of those actions mean disrupting outside relationships, maybe disrupting who your executive suite is in your family office, maybe disrupting who's on your family council, maybe disrupting who your most trusted business advisors are inside and outside. And so the process I think that's critical is making sure that everybody comes to a singular page, and that's a negotiation. And then you set an agenda to get it done. And then you build the infrastructure to make that happen. And that's change management, and that's growth management. And it's a lot of the other strategies that I think apply across any enterprise. So I'm going to pause there. And I'm going to just pivot for just a second as to why I use the word enterprise. Families of the magnitude that we're talking about, who can't have a family office, who have the choices that they have around who supports them, they've got a business, they've got a family, they've got community engagement and philanthropy, they've got family celebrations. It's an enterprise. It's a whole ecosystem of activities that come together. And having that very large vision about each of those components and having an intentionality around that, and then having an understanding of what you need in order to accomplish that and taking the time to do that, those are the things that disrupt the shirt sleeves to shirt sleeves risk and allow you to overcome that and launch well beyond it for many, many generations to come.